All right, guys. Welcome to Triba, another live stream event. I'm Sam, the founder and community manager, and I'm here to help. So feel free to ask me questions if you're in our Discord. If you're not on Discord, it's discord.gg/Triba. You can get in there. Triba is a community of founders, business owners, influencers, and entrepreneurs who are building better businesses together through collaboration. That's the key. And we give value first. That's our rule here. When you come into the Triba community, you got to be contributing value in some way. Our mission here is actually to equip leaders like you with the tools and connections they need to gain traction and grow in a virtual business world. That's what we're in right now. In a post-COVID world, business isn't going back to just doing it normally. And if you're a founder out there, sometimes if you feel alone and you're searching for belonging, Tribe is your place to find that belonging. It's your place to connect with clients, investors, and consultants and have meaningful interactions with them. It's a new way to do business without just Googling your problems. You can ask a community that cares. And a lot of our mentors in here, they're dedicated to helping you grow on a professional level. We have user-driven and content-focused material for you to learn from. You can get your answers to the toughest questions, and one of those questions is SEO. A lot of people come in and ask me, how do I do SEO? What is SEO? So today we brought in an expert on the subject matter, Victor Valentine. Thank you, Victor, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Victor is a professional media manager. He runs Valentine Media, sorry. And Valentine Media actually helps a lot of websites with their SEO, a lot of business owners with their SEO on their website. So, Vic, first, before we get started on this, we're going to do a workshop. We're actually going to dive into how he does SEO, but I wanted to get a little background. So, Vic, can you tell us just how you got started with this and a little bit of the background on Valentine Media?
So my background began in 2012, focusing around content writing primarily. I was one of the workhorses for a designer that I was friends with and living with at the time who was great at building WordPress websites that were relevant to certain ad terms that he would run Google ads onto. So he needed content to fill like top 5 ways to use a cell phone tracker, top 5 ways to blah blah blah, and it'd be like a stupid niche subject that he had no idea about but needed, just 500 words every day per
Mm-hmm.
website. So I got started with that, but eventually worked my way into social media management, light graphic design, and I eventually floated through every channel of marketing entirely. So email marketing, paid advertising, search engine marketing, search engine optimization, pretty obviously, and then going into actual building of marketing departments and then training those materials for other employees and stuff. And then eventually starting my own business, managing my own clients, and beginning my own agency. So started from the bottom, and now we're still basically at the bottom, but doing much more of the tower as we,
Well,
progress to different requirements and stuff.
yeah, so now you're at the top of the Triba though. You're a Triba elder, which means you've been helping a lot of people in here with SEO and other aspects of their business. Just tell us, like, when did you get started with Triba, and what are your thoughts so far?
Triba started when, like, Q3 sometime last year or
It's
last summer or so,
yeah, early this year actually. It started.
earlier this
Yeah,
year.
we're pretty young. We're not even a year old yet.
Okay, it's
I,
just been,
I think you came in pretty much at the beginning though. You were
yeah,
here since the beginning.
yeah. I've seen it grow. I've seen it morph into its whole own entity from that which shall not be named.
Yeah.
So it's been a lot of fun watching it grow and watching it develop into a community of people who are not only driven but willing to lend a helping hand to those who are still in the beginning stages or
Hmm.
still a little more novice to some of these subjects that relate to business owning and business
Hmm.
building, but aren't always covered in your standard, how to run a business course or whatever the hell. So
Yeah, I think it's a better way to get education than going through and trying to find courses online that often are just clickbait or just trash and don't really provide value. So we try to provide value through these kind of workshops. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're going to get into today? What's going to be the
so
flow?
what we're gonna do is I'm gonna work through breaking down the SEO to somebody's site, and I'm gonna give sort of some insight on what a typical SEO would do in terms of analyzing a website for um, organic reach, for backlinks, for traffic, for
Awesome.
increasing your keyword authority, and all these other
Hmm.
factors that play into how Google ranks your website. And it's not just Google; other search engines do this as well. I primarily
Right.
focus on Google because it's the largest one, but really just breaking down the concepts of here's how all of these different digital uh, real estates talk to each other as it relates to your website, as it relates to the Google search itself.
Awesome. All right. Well, yeah, if you guys also want to hop in the Discord, if you're watching on the live stream or a recording, you can go in and submit your own link at, I think it's valentinemedia.com/links to SEO. It's in the
It's
event
in no,
listing.
it's valentine.media slash I don't know dash two dash SEO. It's probably too long of a link, but
Maybe too long.
it is yeah, it's a little too
Like I said, if you go to
wordy.
discord.gg/Triba, hop in here, you can submit your own link as well, and he'll hit you up and give you some information or feedback on that as well. All right, well, let's get started then. I'm excited to see what we're going to get into and some of the processes that you go through when you're analyzing websites SEO. So let's go ahead and pull it up and we'll get going, guys. If you have any
So
questions, drop them in co-working.
first things first. Yes, drop any questions you have as they happen. I will do my best to answer them on the fly. So right here we have Mr. Yeadam.com. Um, a very flashy website, very great off top.
Can you share the
One of the
screen?
I am sharing the screen
Oh,
actually.
really? Oh,
Um,
there we go. Okay.
if you would,
I got it.
if you would, sir.
We got it up.
One thing we're gonna test right off the top is page speed. This is something that most all websites need to focus on as far as optimization for mobile and stuff, because one of the things that people tend to overlook is the ability for people to use your website from their cell phone,
Mm-hmm.
which is about 80% of all traffic that happens nowadays. So mobile centric needs to be focused first, and that's sort of the whole premise of Valentine Media is how to create platforms and everything that not only look great on desktop and perform well and everything else, but also um, load well and load for people who may not be in the United States or in Europe or have solid data connections and still want to access your website. So, with that said, we're looking at both desktop performance looks pretty solid, 88. They're gonna rank you as a little red because you've got a couple things here now. Common knowledge says that your website should load within about 1 second. And that's kind of like really super optimized, really super low data availability or bandwidth. So on desktop, it looks like that's pretty solid. First contentful paint, that's like the amount of time it takes for the content to fill the page from the ping is 1 second, which is pretty good. But the largest is a second and a half, so it takes about a second and a half to load the site on desktop. And I imagine that's because there are a couple overlays here. We've got some effects. This probably turns into a video player or pops one up. YouTube isn't playing too well. May need to look at that. We do have some nice sort of explanations of what Yeadam is above the fold, and this is great to kind of entice somebody to continue scrolling down the screen and see what's up with it.
I
But
have
if
a
we take a
question.
glance, yes.
Sorry, I don't want to interrupt the flow, but if I was to add like a cool animation there in the background, how dramatically would that affect the page load speed? If it was like that background he has there, but like it was spinning or those electron kind of things were orbiting it, that would look really cool, but would that significantly impact the load speed?
So it depends on how it's being fulfilled for the content. So if it were like an MP4 that was in, like, say you had a Squarespace site and you use the video embed option and you link a YouTube video
Mm-hmm.
to your website for the banner or whatever, that would probably not take too long to load, but the quality of it would suffer because it's an embedded video that has to stream in from YouTube separately. Now, if this were, say, a Lottie file, which is, um, to my understanding, just a simple vector animation that loops, it'll tend to be easier. Something like this clearly, has CGI and it probably would have like a lot of things moving at once and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Not very advisable because something that is 1080p or larger is gonna take a lot of data to load. So there are ways around it as far as programming.
Yeah, because you see some
For
big websites do stuff like that, and it doesn't seem to affect their load speed.
Yeah, so
There's
when
got
you
to be a
see
way.
larger websites have like very precise content or designs that are like super animated and things flow in certain orders and stuff, that's either a Webflow build or direct like custom build from scratch, like hard coded. So when your websites are hard coded, they tend to like lean on the leaner side. They tend to be easier to load. They tend to be easier on bandwidth and everything.
Right.
This site in particular, like if I can get to it, let's see. Like I see the CSS and stuff. We're looking. This is I can't really explain what I'm looking at here, but what I am looking for is that background image to see where it's coming from. The future preloader loader CSS looks like solid, so I'm not sure what along what lines mobile is ranking this paint on, but it seems to me that the content side is a little bit heavy for mobiles to render to begin with. So the fact that it took 3.5 seconds for your first contentful paint, think about somebody who's visiting the website from a mobile platform. They're going to wait maybe 5 seconds. And if they don't see any load, anything happen on the screen, even if it's like a load circle or something, they may bounce and they'll never come back. So
Right. I've
it
even
is,
heard 3 seconds is the max people will wait.
yeah, it's getting shorter by the year because people are becoming more accustomed to browsing heavy content based websites from their phones. And not everyone is on 5G. Some people are still using LTE or still using a previous generation networks and stuff. So it's
Mm-hmm.
something to consider, especially if you want to be a global presence. You really need to lean on how minimal can I make this website as far as like CSS code, as far as the JavaScript loading, as far as like things of that nature. And I'm not a coder, and I don't even pretend to be. So when it comes to those sorts of things, I leverage platforms that sort of handle that for you,
Mm-hmm.
like Webflow.
Yeah, Webflow's
Um,
great.
so we've got a couple things. So next generation formats of so here's specifically what is sort of harming the site. So we got this image, not huge. It's only just under a megabyte, but a megabyte is pretty heavy when you've got four other things that are also either a megabyte or half a megabyte or whatever. So just trimming this down as much as possible um, is advisable. Images are kind of they're 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 knocking you on the image size as far as like responsiveness goes, because maybe the image itself is really big but the phone screen itself is only showing this sliver. It still has to load the rest of that image. So keep that in mind when you're developing your website and you're choosing assets and everything, that you want to lean on responsiveness first. So choosing assets that are already light and lean, and I can show you a couple of tricks to sort of shrink this down, because the quality of this image, it's probably not coming through on stream, is very high, and it's very good.
Oh, we got
Um,
perfect streaming here. We got, it looks
yeah,
great.
so it's very crispy. So let me show you guys something real quick that will save you so much time in the long run. Is just Googling, PNG shrinker. I don't like this service because it has limits. I like compressed JPEG or JNP, whatever the fuck this is called. Pop this in there. 869 kilobytes is not a lot of data. It
Mm-hmm.
isn't. But when you think about somebody visiting your website out of India or something, that's going to take a minute to load. So let's see, knocking it down 74%, and we download it, and I'm going to open it right back up. It's going to look near identical, and you're not going to lose the transparency. You're not going to lose anything. All it's going to do is reduce like the color depth. So some of the colors are not going to look as vibrant, but this isn't going to matter to anybody looking at your website because it's something that the human eye barely recognizes. So the fact that I was able to shave this down 74% leads me to believe that every other image on the website also needs to be shaved down, and this is dramatically going to help your page speed right off top. So, and I can do that for every single one of these, images and assets and everything. But
All right, I put those
you know,
links in co-working chat as well for people.
yeah. So let me do this. Let me go ahead and open that. Keep that open. So um, I don't know who is rest in peace headphone users, but I'm gonna
Michelangelo, can
mute
you
that.
mute yourself while you're listening?
Yeah.
Unless you have a question.
So compressed JNP is going to be one of them. Page speed insights is always good to
Thanks, man.
use. There is another service that is a little more in depth when it comes to uh, page speed. So I'm going to pull that up and it's always good to use multiple services when you're testing for these things, because, Google has good tools, but sometimes it's a little harsh on its ratings. So
Gotcha.
another one I like to use is Pingdom, which I will drop also in the chat. So
Nice.
you want to test the nearest server, and then we hit start. You kind of wait in line because there's going to be people ahead of you. While we're waiting for that to run, let's take a look at the actual SEO stats. So this SEO as a whole is the combination of expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness as it relates to Google's ability to determine those aspects of your content on your website. And the way we do that is through long form blog content, video content on YouTube, short video, like all sorts of content on YouTube that you could then hyperlink or embed within your website. Excuse me, and just moving through, those sorts of requirements. So if we take a look at Yeatom's site here over the last year, it looks like it's a relatively new site that was launched sometime in January. We have one backlink here for the first like 5 months, pops up to 3 and then 4, 5, 6, and it keeps climbing from there. So referring domains, what this means is it means that there are other websites on the internet that refer back to yours. These are also called backlinks. So this is important because let's say you're a writer and your work has been featured on Wall Street Journal or Forbes or something. Having that link from Forbes back to your website legitimizes your website by the legitimacy of that site. So the more referring domains you have, the better off you are, et cetera, et cetera. So, and I can pull up other sites too if you guys want to get into those while we're still on the call, so you guys can see comparatively like where you stand as far as backlinks go and all these other things. One thing to keep track of throughout this entire process is looking for you can earn backlinks and you can lose backlinks. So losing backlinks means that that person that you had the site that you had the backlink on edited their site and removed your backlink because either your content's no longer relevant or there was an update pushed or whatever. And that's kind of on you to have an awareness of and continue to keep up with. So right here, what I can see is some of the distribution of country-based codes. A lot of them are in the US, so 5 of the backlinks are in the US, 2 of the backlinks are in Japan, and the rest of these are just kind of like miscellaneous services and stuff. Anchors are basically like the headings on the website. So if I were to go back to Yeatom's site and I scroll all the way to the bottom and we look at something like Atlantis Club, that's an anchor text. About, that's an anchor text. Contact, that's an anchor text. How do I know? Because these things click out to other pages. And if they don't, then they probably shouldn't be in the footer, right? So knowing that, they're all here. Synergy links to, or Atlantis Club links to the Discords. That's not going to be a backlink because Discord doesn't offer backlinks like that. The About links to the About page as it should. Atlantis Club links to Atlantis Club for a paid service, and that's all great. So those are the anchors, though. Let's go back to see where we're at here. So now we have some hard data as to the amount of megabytes that this entire page holds. 4.5 megabytes for a page size is kind of huge. So
Really?
yes, and I'll show you why. So what we'll do is I'll put in my website here as sort of the metric because my website's extremely lean. Probably only loads within 0.8, 0.9, I think, hopefully, unless I'm about
Let's
to eat
see.
my words.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. So page speed 2.3 megabytes, still kind of big. It's a long page, 1.14 site, it's still got a relatively decent grade, but you do want to keep this page size to about as minimal as possible. I have my own problems here to deal with. A lot of these are rated okay, but basically you just go through, you look at this stuff and you say, okay, how many of my CSS sheets need to be revised as far as like, is there information being called for in the style sheet that no longer reflects the design of the website? Because maybe you edited the design, but you didn't edit the CSS. Or you have a platform where you edit the design that doesn't automatically update the CSS. So these are things that kind of keep in mind. Right here, he has a lot of 302s and 301s, and I recognize that back over here for, let's see if we can get to referring domains. So these are going to be the 302s, I think. Yeah, so we have yeatum.org, yeatum.net, the yeet.com. These are all 302s um, that are basically redirecting from these domains themselves to the main domain. And part of the problem with these 301s is if the original links have HTTP protocol and it has to redirect to send it to HTTPS, like the secure version, that's adding extra time in your page load. So having that as your default, and I'm not sure which platform it was built on, this is all, information that's relevant to specific platforms. So if you have Webflow, it's going to be one solution. If you built on WordPress, it's going to be another. If you have Squarespace, it'll be a third one.
For people
You kind of
watching,
have to.
do we Yeatum or Dr. Yeatum? Do you know what? Obviously, you know, but can you tell us what it was built on?
Yeah, so this is just static HTML, CSS, and JavaScript that's on the Udemy GitHub tied to Netlify. And Netlify is like a global edge content delivery network for like client side
Oh yeah, you put that in
of
co-working. I
applications.
see that now.
So yeah, with all that in mind, like the fact that it is a hard-coded website that was built by hand, it looks like some of that code may need to be revised as the design was edited, as some of these things are added and stuff. What we do have though, as far as let's take a look at keywords, because this is going to be the next major aspect that Google relates your content to people looking up searches itself. So SF stands for search results. So where in the SERP, SERP, SERP stands for search engine results page. So literally Google, like if you're within the top 10, that means you're ranking within the top 10, page 1 of these keywords. And some of these are new. Like I didn't notice some of these keywords here only a few days ago. So there's active content being delivered onto the site and everything else. You can see here the position of those ranks right here in this column here.
Does that mean
So if
he's
we
on
were to
page
arrange,
9 for Atlas Club?
no, that's position 9. So he's
Position
on
9.
page
Okay.
1, but the traffic for the keyword is Atlantis Club. The traffic is 11 searches per month. Or that's his traffic. That's 11 visitors from that keyword. The volume of that keyword is 300. So for something like Yeatum, that's a service for data-driven something. I know it's data-driven. I don't know exactly what it is by the copy. I know it has to do with markets. I know it has to do with like finance, enhance your cyber estate. Some of this is a little too jargony. And the reason I say that is because people who are searching aren't necessarily going to be searching cyber estate. That's kind of like in industry lingo. Instead, they may search like AI assisted market helper or something. Like there's you kind of have to approach it from the perspective of what is the average Joe or the average or your customer avatar, your ideal client, what are they searching for? And then
Right.
adjust your content to match that sort of intent. Like where's Atlantis? 40 searches per month. Cost per click is $2 cost per click. So it gets enough traffic to warrant people running ads on that. However, the keyword was lost because I don't know what happened to this page. Maybe it got deleted. It didn't, but the keyword was lost. So,
Hmm.
so in the content itself, this needs to be adjusted with maybe some more headings, with a little bit more relevance to,
Hmm.
the service itself. And that's basically the point of any content, is not to just like share, unless it is a share philosophy, whatever the intent of the content is. If the content is supposed to drive people to a service, it should be presented in a way of, here's this thing you didn't know that's really cool to know that relates to a specific question. So one of the things that people tend to get mixed up when it comes to figuring out their keywords and stuff is, how do I even begin? How do I even decide? And my number one like strategy for this is, what are the conversations that you find yourself having on a daily basis with people who are already interested in your whatever? If you're answering similar questions, if you're answering similar lapses in understanding, if you're going over specific concepts, these need to be the things that your content reflects itself. So 10 keywords is a good start, and there is some volume here. SUSD Synergy has 3,000 volume searches per month, but the keyword was lost. So maybe adjusting the content to be a bit more specific to the use case or a bit more specific to the person who would be looking it up or something along those lines would really bolster the keyword density there. It looks like the highest traffic page is Atlantis Club, so, and he's got 2 keywords ranking into there. Let's see what they are. Atlantis and Club. Okay, cool. So 200 people are searching that per month, and your position 71, but it is bringing traffic in. So near 100% of the traffic is coming in straight to this page, and they're probably coming in from the home page. The rest of these pages here either have lost, their keywords or aren't receiving much of any traffic at all. It looks like one of these pages dropped 44 positions in their ranking for Atlantis Fact. Atlantis being the name of the service, so people are probably searching like frequently asked questions about Atlantis, like the actual thing, not particularly about the service. So Google is going to lower the relevancy of that keyword because people are probably looking for the lost city of Atlantis.
Still.
So,
Still looking for it.
Still looking for it, for sure. Let's look at the subdomains here, because I know that Yeadam's blog exists on Vault. 4 keywords there, 3 pages, 4 keywords on the main one.
Vic, what does it mean when it says lost keyword? You may have said this already, but how would that be fixed?
So when you lose a keyword, basically it means the relevancy of the content doesn't accurately reflect the intent of people who are searching for the keyword.
Okay.
And that's why I think that the Atlantis thing was lost, because maybe they were actually looking for
the
city of Atlantis facts, right? So
interesting.
When you get further, like I'm gonna use an example of somebody that I recently looked up, and it really shook me on how well this dude did his content. To give you some context, this guy Jim Allen is like one of the top realtors in North America, basically. And when you look at his website, you can see why, because the man is ranking for like 4,000 fucking keywords or something crazy, and has been around for a stupid amount of time. But when you look at these keywords, it's going to make sense because it comes down to first 2 that he's ranking for, of course, his own name. Then we have the name of specific neighborhoods, other areas in North Carolina, other cities, other neighborhoods, and it just breaks down into specific pages here. And he's ranking 1, 1, 1, 5, 2, 1, 6, 1,
wow.
1, 1, 1, new, up 20 spots, new, up 9 spots, up. Like, and this is what happens when you have an entire staff working toward your marketing all at the same time. Is there's a cohesive content marketing strategy. And what I mean by that is you take your main profiles of the people you want to work with, what are they going to be searching, and then what are the variations of sort of situations that reflect those keywords. So when you think about somebody buying a house, what are the times in your life when you would be thinking about either buying or selling a home? Maybe you are loaded and you just moved out of your parents' house, you're looking for your own place. Maybe you just got married, maybe you just had a child, maybe you just had a divorce, maybe you just had a death in the family. All of these 5 different scenarios are going to be different keywords based on the person looking for that information. So if you have top 5 tips for divorcees, I'm getting a divorce, what do I do with the house? That's going to be a specific keyword in and of itself, and is going to have different content than I had a death in the family, what do I do with my house? Or I just had a child, what do I do with my house? Like these sorts of things are going to relate to the idiosyncratic situations that you have to plan for within your content ahead of time. And again, that all relates to like how you're communicating with people in real life, who are your optimal audience. If you find yourself, rubbing elbows with people who are like wealthy, what are wealthy problems? What are the problems that they're going to care about? If it's somebody who's a freelancer or a creative of some sort and they're looking for somebody to purchase their products, what are the situations in which somebody's going to be even looking for your product? Think about these things as you're developing the content, as you're developing variations, because it could mean the difference between grocery stores in North Carolina and grocery store in Raleigh, NC. He's ranking for both of these, and these are on the same page. So if you present the content in a specific way, let's say you have a heading, one heading is for a specific neighborhood, and then another heading is for more general North Carolina, you can rank this section for one keyword and this section for a different keyword based on how dense the content is itself. So, and of course, these are professional made content. Like he has people doing this daily. Like this is their day job, is to walk in and write blogs every day. So, we have developed systems where, you begin with a video of yourself explaining something, or you begin with a video of your service. Break it down from there. Take the transcripts, put them in a file, find some subjects that relate to one another, tie those to keywords, and then look up the actual keywords themselves. So let's say AI marketing keywords explorer. So Google AI market analysis or something. Keyword difficulty super hard, only 30 people, only like 30 searches per month. That's probably too specific. So what if we go a little more general, like stock market AI? A little more, we're getting closer, more volume. We want to aim for the highest volume possible and the lowest keyword difficulty. So we'll see some other ones, stock market AI, market prediction. These are all relatively low. You don't want to target anything under like 50 searches a month, because you're not really going to get too far with it. It's not really worth working for those. I mean, it could be in the long run. If you're thinking like 10 years down the road and it's going to be big and you're just ahead of the curve, preempt those contents, because the volume is not going to reflect the interest of the industry itself. So, as we look through this, some of these by artificial intelligence is going to have 150,000 searches a month because intelligence is such a broad subject. So, Robinhood. This is something that other companies do that I've seen work really well, is list your competition. So I found something I looked for yesterday was a social media scraper. And as an SEO, I know what I'm looking for when it comes to websites that keep up with their content and everything else. So I'm looking through these, and it's going to show me the one that I clicked on yesterday at the top. What I looked for first was this date here, 2021. So it was really recent, it was new. Some of the other searches I looked up were like 2020, 2019. These are still ranking. These are still probably relevant, but they're not up to date. They're not new. So if you lean on newness, if you lean on how descriptive the content is itself, you'll be heading in the right direction for like the content you need to base your stuff off of. So like listicles have been big since BuzzFeed, and they're going to continue to be big, even though Google is really working toward removing these sorts of articles from their search results entirely, unless they're done really well. So top 5 social media scraping tools for 2021. Within the third heading, they have their service listed first. So Octoparse, this is the service, this is the website Octoparse. This is like their service. But these other 4, they still list their competition, and the clever thing about it is they're linking their competition. So inadvertently, you can boost your own competition. You can boost your own like relevancy within your niche, within your competition, if you link to your competitors. Hey, just let you know, they're my competition, I'm better, but here's why they're still good. Google's gonna sort of reward that sort of behavior so long as you're being accurate to their actual company and everything in their service. This is a really smart way to build your backlinks. It's a really smart way to, develop your content strategy as you build out the website. And to prove this, I will go ahead and pull up their backlinks and show you just, what they've got going on behind the hood. So we pull this stuff up, they're steadily trucking. They're steadily working, they've been around since 2016, so this is going to be a far steeper path. But let me point to something here that's really interesting. So we look at this. What does this tell us? This is the referring domains. I've already told you what referring domains are. They're the backlinks to other websites and other companies. But what the fuck is happening with those referring pages? We got 60,000 referring pages with 139 referring domains. To me, as an SEO, that looks a little black hatty. It looks like they bought backlinks, and these websites are just fucking flooding their content pages with links going back to that website. Now, come the end of, come 2017, Google was like, no, we're not about this shit. Put all the juice to that stuff, and immediately it's gonna deflate. While the referring domains are still increasing, so they probably adjusted their content strategy. Okay, we got to do this the right way. We got to build this nice and slow and the way we need to go. Yeah. So that slowly builds and it just accumulates, and before long, you're a powerhouse within the niche. So let's see what words they're actually ranking for now. Based on traffic. So the highest traffic comes up first. Of course, they're ranking for their own name, which you should absolutely be doing. And the way you do that is having all your social media handles be the same, if not the domain name itself. Because I bet you anything, if I just look up Octoparse, I'm going to pull up their website and I'm going to pull up their social media. Like that's going to be the first 5 links if they've done it correctly, excluding the ads. And they're even running an ad for their own search. So that's something to notice too. So they're running an ad for their own keyword. They're ranking here. They have this is something I actually just learned how to do recently with JSON or JavaScript. What's it called? Markup or some shit. Like having this in Google really lends to your credibility, and it's built into like the code of the site or specific sections if you're on Webflow, if you're on anything else. Twitter, YouTube, Capterra, and it goes without saying, like if you offer a service that's like a digital service, being on websites that are marketplaces which compare your services to other services are also great ways of building your backlinks and your authority, because all through this listing are going to be links to your services, links to specific pages, links to your competition, and everything else. So having an awareness of the platforms that you can use to even reach out to more people or to give people that opportunity to compare your service against others is also something to consider within your content strategy. So software advice, Trust Radius, LinkedIn, Trustpilot, Level Up, Octoparse, web scraping medium, like Stackshare. All of these are absolutely relevant. They're dominating the first page for their name, which is exactly what it should be. And then after this, it becomes listicles and things that are like identifying them specifically. So utilize all channels that you have access to. Keep your images lean. Figure out the variations to your keywords. So if somebody is looking for a social media crawler, they're going to look up Web Ripper, they're going to look up online web crawler. And a service like Ahrefs is probably the one I recommend the most if you are one who's like ragtag and you're trying to do it yourself, like with as little stuff as possible. Trends.google.com is always a decent service to use. So if I were to put Octoparse in here, actually let's put social media scraper. What? Sometimes Google doesn't like things that you look up, and that's not something.
Is it too many terms?
It shouldn't be. Maybe like data scraper or something, just for the sake of example. So you can see within Google, they'll provide you like the key, like how often it's being looked up. And this isn't super accurate. I wouldn't use this as like end all be all to your content strategy or anything. It doesn't even give you related like keywords, which is kind of shitty. And I bet if I were to look up Yeatum, it's not going to pull up much. Yeah, so it works for like general keywords, but if you want to get into the specifics, or if you want like a breakdown of which keywords you should be looking for or anything like that, you can always hit me up and we can, arrange something along those lines where I walk you through this process and everything else. So if I were to go back to Yeatum and we do site audit, let's see. Oh, I need the actual setup. We can't do that right now. So we'll do instead is go back to Yeatum. So again, like Atlantis Club, like that's great for the brand, but as far as having content readily available for people who are interested in your service and are looking for information about it, it's probably not super relevant. But again, a lot of these are ranking where directly on the landing page for the membership itself. So this isn't a knock to, oh, you're ranking for the wrong things, because he's ranking absolutely for the right things given the relevancy to this page. Let's see here. Let's see what else I can break down. URL redirects, I kind of already covered that. So 88% of this is my website. Yeah, 88% of my website is images. That's almost 2 megabytes. That gives me homework to do right after this call. Like I need to go shrink some images, or I need to make sure that my shit's optimized. 92% of Yeatom's site is images, and it's 4.2 megabytes. That is massive. So I'm guessing that a good handful of the images that are on this homepage can be optimized or shrunk. You know, probably this one, probably that one in the background there, the layers. I know it's multiple layers because when we, how did I pull up that image? I saw it on this list. Was it on, wherever I saw it? Oh, it was here. So like, you know, keeping the images within the constraints of sizes that make sense per the platform. So that's what responsiveness is. You know, a lot of this the scroll, the smooth scroll is nice, but sometimes it's knockable because it's a strain on the system that's running it. It's a little heavy on the RAM. Look at this image here. This image looks like it's baked in. It's just a lot of images, but I mean, it looks nice. It runs smooth. It runs smoother on the actual screen. This is like a 60 hertz screen, so it looks like shit. But on a 120 hertz screen, it's beautiful. It's super smooth. But again, if you don't have that tech to keep up with it, it's kind of overkill. All the links look accurate. This, I'm not sure why that's an index link. That should be a normal link. One thing I did notice was, so in drop-down menus and stuff, these are all clickable, but these pages don't exist. And that's kind of confusing for people who who have buttons that do click and then buttons that don't. Because maybe they don't even notice the drop-down and they just want to go straight to open source. Like, what is open source? That's an opportunity for content that will relay information relevant to your company, to the person interested, but also help you rank for any keywords that can fall within the open source short tail keywords itself. So open source artificial intelligence market capabilities, or open source services, or whatever it may be. That'd be a good page to have there. Outside of that, we've got always eliminate the sizes of images whenever possible. You want to get this first contentful paint down to like the smallest amount that you can get it to, because that means your website can load on data networks which are a little restrictive or a little lackluster, for lack of a better term. Let's see here. Referring domains, anchors, internal backlinks. Internal backlinks are important too. So there are backlinks that come from other websites into your website, and there are backlinks from within your website to other pages within the website. And I know for certain I have one website in particular which is excellent at this, and it's Garrett's website. I don't have it hooked up here anymore, but we're gonna pop it in and see what's what. Because this dude, wrote 10,000 articles over 2 years and has them all cross-linked within themselves. So, as you can see, he launched the site at the top of the year, and it just explodes with backlinks because he's been doing a lot of projects with people. He's been, building a lot of client sites, and all of them have the Ion Enterprises link at the bottom of it that are backlinked back to the site. But I was referring to internal backlinks, so let's go ahead and look at those. So the main referring blog page has anchor text for literally all of his blogs are backlinked on that one blog page. And of course they would be, because it's the blog page, it's the main carousel for looking at his content. If we were to move on, again, still on the blog, all these backlinks of different writing at different times. Some of his metadata is a little wonky. That date shouldn't be sitting in there like that, and this shouldn't be as long as it is. So there's some optimization there to be had, but through and through, his backlinks are pretty solid because he did them properly. So having your website talk to itself internally is just as important as how the website talks to other services outside your website, including your social media, which is also important too, to have like comprehensive social media, workflow where you're posting regularly on all social media sites, you're posting regularly on all channels. And the reason for this is Google takes those social media sites and it hooks them back up to your homepage or your website itself, and it's kind of like this two-way street of data where you have backlinks flowing out, backlinks flowing in, social media flowing out from the site. So let's say you posted a YouTube video. That YouTube video should also exist as a blog on the website with the embed to the YouTube video on the blog itself. And that all talks to each other. So basically the more wires you can cross between different services, the better your website performs as far as backlinks and authority goes. Now, I did read something recently for Google that stated something along the lines of, if you don't have at least 30 articles, 30, if you don't have at least 30, it's hard to consider your authoritativeness within a subject. The common knowledge when I started in SEO was 3. You needed 3 blogs to rank before you can really fucking nail it. Now it's 30 just to be considered. So hitting every possible angle of the clients that you're going to be, working with, hitting every possible scenario of what they'll encounter before they come to you and what they'll be searching. All of these things come into play because that one subject of, artificial intelligence for markets becomes 30 different situations in which one would be useful, and then you write content from that point forward. So keep all that in mind. Let me see if there's anything else as far as SEO that I'll open it up for questions. I feel like I've been ranting for a half hour straight. So if there's any questions so far on anything I've already outlined, or maybe I went through too fast, or you need a little bit of clarification on, I'm all ears.
Clarification. Speaking of which, welcome Clara and Danny and Michelangelo. If you guys have any questions, feel free to unmute and ask them.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah, I'm thinking
I'm
of my question,
driving.
but
I just want to say thanks for acknowledging me. I'm listening, I'm enjoying, and I'm driving. So I'm going back
Drive
on mute.
safe.
Thank
Drive
you.
safe. Drive safe.
yeah, thanks, Valentine. Yeah, I'm kind of like, I'm getting a lot of knowledge right now because I'm currently building a website for my client, and I'm trying to figure out a way to rank him at least maybe 30%, just to get him there to be able to at least get a search from Google, because getting SEO is really really hard. It's a thing I've been struggling with because I'm not an SEO expert or anything like that. So, well, I love the workshop. I've been listening, and I'm certainly enjoying everything. So please just continue. I will think of my question concerning my website, and I will get back to you.
Is the
So
website
just
launched? Is it live?
no, it's not live yet. It's kind of like in the development process.
Okay.
Clara's
So
website's live.
huh?
Clara's website's live. You want to look at it?
I was gonna actually ask Danny here, what the site was relevant to, and we'll try to go through some keyword strategy so he
Perfect.
can have something to take away from this. So that
All right.
website you're building is relevant to what industry or service?
It's kind of like a company. It's based on aluminum actually. They make roofs, fabricated windows and doors for houses, buildings, large buildings, and they really want me to build a website that will get a lot of attention towards their products and their services, on how their jobs, and do a lot of things about aluminum. So I just kind of want to see what I'll get from it.
So let's see here. So the first thing I thought of in hearing that is commercial window replacement. So let's see what we're working with that. 400 volume, relatively low, very easy to rank for. 5, it says we estimate that you'll need backlinks from 6 websites to rank in the top 10 for this keyword. That is extraordinary. That's a ripe market basically. And most of the global volume is coming from the United States. Let's see if I just do commercial windows. A little bit harder, 12, but the volume is tripled. Traffic potential is relatively high. So what you would do is you go through these keywords, and then I am preferable to centering your content around questions, because I don't have a metric on this, but I do know a great majority of searches that happen today happen via voice, and they happen, say, through Google Assistant or Siri or Alexa or whatever the fuck. Um, so phrasing your content in the form of questions that are then being answered by the content is always a good strategy to use. So how to board up
Okay.
commercial windows, how to clean, how to buy, how to tint, how to install. These are things that are
Okay.
going to really convey the expertise of the company, and it'll this is the challenge when you work with like B2B companies is there's so many people
Mm.
that are probably knowledgeable on the subject but just haven't gotten it out of their heads yet. Maybe they're in sales, maybe they're in management, maybe they're the CEO. But
Okay.
where sort of the magic is getting them to just talk about problems that they encounter or the questions that they typically would answer. Let's look at the
Okay.
keyword ideas as well. So
Mm.
between the questions and the keyword ideas, I would say, and I can actually export this for you. So um, we'll do the we'll do the first 1,000 rows for you here. So basically, what I'm going
All
to
right.
drop in that Discord is going to be an actual Excel sheet with the keywords in there and the volumes next to them. So you'll have a bit of a guideline as far as what should we be focusing on with our content and how do we target these
Okay.
keywords.
All right. All right. All right. Thanks. Thanks.
We'll
Thanks.
do the exports as well. Shit. We'll do the SERPs too. So, and I can do this for anyone else. This is real easy for me to run. This is real easy for me to export. So if you have a website and you don't know shit about SEO other than what you've listened in right now, and you want something tangible to take away from this, now is the time to speak up and ask because I can literally run the scan, export, and drop them straight into this thing, like on the fly. And it's gonna look pretty weird because Discord has a format for CSVs and stuff. So yeah, if anybody else wants a quick breakdown of their keywords or questions that they should be utilizing their
Okay.
content towards.
All right. All right. So what I'm thinking about right now is that I'm currently thinking of building myself a new portfolio. So I would like to see if I'll be able to get some kind of like keywords for my freelance portfolio because um I really think I need SEO to at least rank a bit to get get specific clients because I'm not off the whole world. I'm just niche to a little bit of to a little bit of amount of people, actually the amount of clients to get. Like I only run restaurants, B2B and tech startups. That is all I care about. So I would like to get their attention.
Okay, so I can reference my other company. So I run two different companies, but they're basically the same system. So
Okay.
Remark is the B2B application of everything I've just explained so far on SEO. And the way we
Okay.
put the way, like, obviously you can go ahead and try and compete with us directly, but I'm going to give you our positioning so you have an idea of how to position your own expertise and everything.
All right.
Um,
Thanks.
so basically, the way that we presented this information and our original design was nothing like this at all. It was very, oh, we're about narratives and explaining your story and taking risks on yourself and exploration. And it was very heady and philosophical, and it didn't sell anything. It didn't say anything. It was just very too out there, basically. So we brought it back into your real world business for a digital future. So it's for targeting, different companies that don't already have a digital presence or any sort of digital infrastructure and moving forward from there. So in your case, if you're working with primarily restaurants and B2B, you said it would be something similar to this, except it would be instead of focusing on, cultivating sales cycles or marketing and sales workflows. Instead, it would be focusing on high presentation and mobile ordering for restaurants, or maybe at the table
Yeah.
ordering for restaurants, or
Yeah.
some sort of system like that where you can walk in and say, hey, you really need a one pager that has a really great menu and it's very, somebody can pull it up on their phone, order from their phone, tie it to their table, whatever sort of features you want to pitch that sort of business.
Okay.
um, and then sort of move forward from there. So, and again, having like specific examples of the clients you've worked with, what you built them, how it solved their problem, and what previous designs were related to what they currently have is always a good idea. You want to give somebody who's interested in you as much content as possible for their decision making. Because ideally you're just selling the click to the meeting, you're just selling the click to the call, you're just selling that next step. You're not selling the entire service. This is where people get kind of mixed up. Is like, I need a website so people can purchase from me right then. If you're working with B2B, if you're working with restaurants, if you're working with business owners, they typically are not the impulsive types. This isn't e-commerce. This isn't, drop shipping. This isn't, I'm selling Twitter courses. This is, I have a real fucking business and I have, a limited amount of money. I need the maximum impact. So you kind of got to warm them up a little bit. You only just need to get them to book that meeting, because once they book that meeting, it should be your ability to navigate that sales meeting that then convinces them, hey, this is a person I can trust and work with. And the way you position yourself during that meeting is literally get them talking about their problem and keep them talking about their problems. What did you already try in the past that didn't work? What did you try that you threw money at that wasn't successful? How many hours per week or per day are you tied up with tasks that could be handled by a website that had those features? Think along those lines when it comes to restaurants or B2B. Now, when you say B2B, that's very broad. My original B2B marketing anything was a manufacturing company named Cobra Carbide. And this was like my
Yeah,
first
yeah,
real
your
marketing.
B2B is kind of broad, but
So this was like my first manufacturing B2B company that I worked with. I built their marketing department. I built their SOPs. I taught the people that replaced me. And, I moved on from there. So, but this site, they sell solid carbide end mills. They're still using, like, I developed this branding, I developed the color schemes, like they're still using a lot of my stuff, and I'm glad for it because that just proves that it works, basically. So keep this in mind when you say B2B. Is it B2B as far as like restaurant supply? Is it you're connecting restaurants to their vendors? Are you connecting restaurants to their clients? Are you connecting restaurants to new employees or something? Or like there's different applications of restaurant and B2B that you kind of have to niche down to. So if you position yourself as, I work with restaurants to build fluid one-page websites that are able to handle mobile ordering and something or other, like something along those lines would probably be the positioning I would take
right?
for you specifically.
Yeah.
Unless you have a website I can look at and kind of like break down right now.
Mm, mm. Well, I won't really say website because what I work with was I work with a company based in UK. It was CHS. It's kind of like a new social media platform, and I got hired to do kind of, but so I can't really call it a website,
Okay.
Can't really call
Well,
it.
I mean, that's fine. But as far as your positioning goes, I would really consider the, the solutions that you've already provided to restaurants, and then
Okay.
position yourself as the expert of those solutions for restaurants. Maybe kind of aside the B2B stuff, because B2B and restaurants mix in specific cases. If you were
Yeah.
connecting
Yeah. Okay.
vendors to one another, if you were, helping with the sort of like the operations of restaurants. But if your goal is to make a very nice landing page website that holds the menu and handles mobile ordering or something along those lines, that's
Okay.
pretty niche. You could go even further niche by focusing on mom and pop Mexican restaurants, or mom and pop this specific style of restaurant that has this specific style of, how do the customers come in? How do they order? What is the flow of the restaurant? These are all things that you kind of have to consider when you're developing a solution for them, because you're not
All
going to
right.
walk into a Chipotle and be like, hey, yo, I can help with your mobile ordering, because Chipotle is not going to need it. They've already got the infrastructure. They've already built it. But if you go
Yeah.
into a mom and pop restaurant and, they're well known in the community and everything, I would say something along the lines of, you're well known in the community. your community is already involved on social media and they're already on the internet and they're already on Facebook and all these other channels that you could utilize for free, but those channels sort of become not as valuable if you don't have the original website to tie them all to in the first place. So there's a couple angles that you can take when it comes to that. Hopefully that's helpful. If you have any other specific questions, feel free to ask
Yeah, it
them.
was
I have a
helpful. Yeah.
question, a specific one.
Yes, Clara.
In regards to posting, you said 30 articles.
Yeah,
Is there like a specific sequence or frequency of posting that's recommended?
So, as far so the way I present it to my clients is that sounds like a huge number because it is, but if you begin from the conversations itself, if you begin from sort of the concepts that you have to continuously explain, the easiest way to go about this is just to record yourself talking to a camera for like an hour straight. Just let yourself ramble, let yourself go on tangents, let yourself kind of brain dump into a safe video that will eventually become a transcript. So there are transcript services where you can pay like 10 cents a minute, or the cheaper way is uploading it straight to YouTube and using the captions that are like automated and created from there. And now as far as frequency goes of the blogs themselves, it's advised. It depends on the use case of the website itself. So if you're a breaking news website, you're probably going to need somewhere between like 5 to 10 articles a day. If you're if it's just for you and it's your professional portfolio, or you're offering services, or you have a passion project, anywhere between once a week to even I've seen once a month work, but once a month sort of isn't frequent enough to warrant that sort of that sort of frequency. So I would say get ahead of the content, plan out ahead of time like the angles you're going to take, because this is something that people tend to mistake when it comes to developing their content is, well, I wrote an article about how to, can you give me like what you do professionally or what the
I'm an
website's for?
artist. I'm a visual artist, but I also want to do like some kind of. I have a specific life coaching uh, niche that I'm developing, but I'm an, a visual artist. I would like to tie them, marry the two, so to speak.
Okay. So visual artist,
Yeah.
lifestyle.
So so the
So
the
thinking of
other
ways like here's
the
how you
other
go. I'm sorry, go for it.
oh sorry the other interest is helping people manage grief. So
Okay, these are kind of disjointed, so they may need different like
yeah.
websites themselves. Like you
Hmm.
don't want to get too like I'm really passionate about this thing and this thing, but I really like doing this as well. That leads into problems because this is something I had to just like learn the hard way is if you run like I run Valentine Media, nobody cares about my super esoteric weird writing that I had on that website because it's not relevant to media at all. It's relevant to me and I'm the one doing it. I'm the one doing all the media, and to me it makes sense because, I'm me. But it doesn't make sense in the eyes of SEO. It doesn't make sense in the eyes of the clients and the people that are going to be visiting that website with the intent purpose of learning about media. So when it comes to visual artistry and life coaching, I can see those two melding as far as using a creative outlet to keep yourself on track with your life, or keeping your, creative juices flowing in your professional world, or something along those lines. But when it comes to creating content itself, when you have a specific problem that you've solved or a specific strategy that you have, the strategy becomes the pillar of the content itself. But then what's adjacent to all of that is, what are the situations that lead to that person having that solution? Those variables need to be covered as well. So it can be one strategy of, wake up every day and spend 15 minutes meditating and 15 minutes, painting on a canvas that you don't think about, you just do, and you just do it. Well, okay, that's a strategy in and of itself, but what sort of problems is a person going to be having that would lead them to seek that solution? Those become the angles of the content adjacent to that. So in the workflow that we've developed, I tend to have people just record themselves talking and then go back over it and try to tie those to specific situations, to specific instances or specific types of people, because the way you present in language, let's say to a 50-year-old man, is going to be different from the way you present language to a 25-year-old woman. These all have to be considered when it comes to your content. Who's your target audience? Who are the people that you're talking to most? When all of this is thought of cohesively, you end up being able to rattle off, wow, so, when I was 15, I was really bad at time management. So, trying to instill those habits early. And then when you get to 21, you start to develop your style and everything. How do I continue to cultivate the earlier thing I taught them into, like, regiments or discipline or creative exploration or whatever it may be. Like, as a musician, I'm a musician myself. So if I were thinking, like, from the point of music theory or teaching somebody music, would it be elementary school? Would it be middle school? Would it be high school? Would it be college and above, adult level? Would it be an elderly person learning way at the end of their life versus a child in a classroom? Like, these are all different instances of the same goal of teach music or teach creativity or teach time management or teach whatever your pillars are for your content. Most people have like 3. So let's say for a realtor, it would be buying houses, and selling land or developing land. Those are their 3 main, like, pillars. But when it comes to each of those subjects themselves, they break down into dozens of different, steps in the process, considerations to keep in mind before the process begins, during the process, after the process. Like, you have to sort of imagine your client or customer or audience journey through your content. Are they going to be learning through a narrative? Are they going to be learning through something that progressively builds onto itself and they keep working their way through this content that eventually becomes more technical? All of these things sort of have to be thought of before you even begin. And I don't mean before you begin, like, recording yourself. I mean, like, before you begin hacking out, like, sitting here and just hammering it out, hoping that it'll work. You have to rely on the data. You come back to who's searching what's the difficulty for those keywords, what are the variations on those keywords, what is my personal experience with these situations, what is, all the, basically shortcut the person that you intend on teaching with your content, and you can almost never go wrong. Because with SEO, it's so ambiguous as far as, like, how they determine authoritativeness, because these core updates happen literally every couple of months, every couple of weeks. We're seeing changes to the algorithms, we're seeing changes to how Google presents the titles on the search results pages, where they're pulling that search result title themselves. Like, all of these things, it's pretty cohesive and it's pretty in depth. But as far as, like, working with the basic set of tools, you should know your content pillars. So, like, the main subjects that relate to the subject of your website or the purpose of the website, the variations on those subjects, and then the people that would be experiencing the variations of the subjects on the website. So I hope that answers your question. And yeah.
No, that was good. I think that was a good answer. Those are some good questions as well from the audience. Danny, do you have another one?
Yeah, I do have another one, and I'm pretty going. I would really like to understand something about I looked through our form submission I think is a company or some so, and I found out that they were up to like 4 searches, different searches of the whole the companies, and they all ranked really well because I felt like choosing each one of them because we're all good. Their um, features were all great. And I started thinking to myself that I'm building a web app currently. I'm building a web app, and the web app is kind of like because I think I told Sam, yeah, I told Sam or Emperor about it, and I want to know, is there any way to get some kind of like rank on a web app?
When you say a web app, are you referring to, like, an application that's sold on an app store that holds a website window that just
Nope,
loads? Okay,
no.
like, so
It's it's a fully brand web app. It's like everything about it's all web.
or how do you access it? Through an application you download through the store or through a web browser?
Oh, sorry. You asked it through the browser actually. Just your browser. You know what browser.
Okay, so if it's through the browser, it's still going to be relevant to SEO. As
Okay.
far as ranking a web app though,
All
A
right.
web app is not quite the same as like Web
The
2.0
website.
content. So, um, let me see if I can think of an example.
Okay.
Sam, do we have the Idea Market landing page that is no longer the homepage that was once the homepage?
The old homepage, I don't know if we do have that.
Okay, so
I don't think so.
as far as web apps go, I think like, do you have the link, or like, do you have the actual web app that I can access?
Nope. It's in production currently. It's a
Okay,
project.
so it depends on the platform it's being held on. It depends
Okay.
on the website that's being built around the web app, because the app I'm going to assume is the subdomain app at whatever domain.com,
Okay.
app.domain.com. So that
Right.
subdomain is going to be reliant upon the primary domain, which should be a Web 2.0 content-based website that explains all the things that the app does. So the SEO
Okay.
from the web app itself will rely heavily on the actual website that is the landing page, that is the sales page, that is the funnel, top of funnel.
Okay. All
That's
right.
going to
All right.
really inform the web app itself. You'll rank for the app based on the cohesiveness of the content of the website built around it.
Okay. Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
Nice.
Absolutely.
Well, I think we might have time for one more question, then we're going to wrap it up here. Anyone have one more thing? Those were some good answers, Vic, to some tough questions. But you did a great job, and I think we got a good overview of I don't know to SEO for those of us who don't know anything, and now we know quite a bit, actually. And this will all be as well on Twitch and YouTube for you guys to watch back through and look at.
What I'll also
Okay.
do right before we jump off is I'm gonna pop in a couple more different SEO tools, and actually I'll just upload
Perfect.
this keyword toolkit I built a few years ago that kind of helps give an overview of different services that are available for free online that you could just
Okay.
access. It's called Quick 62. It was like a really old product that I had once sold in my previous marketing career,
Quick
but I'm
62.
no longer use it, but I'll upload it for you guys here. And it's pretty cool. It comes with a zip file, so you pop the zip file into your bookmarks, and it'll automatically populate these services
Nice.
into your browser. So let me go ahead and export this last one. It's an HTML link, so don't panic when you open it in your web browser's like, do we open this? Like, you want it to open through that.
Okay, nice, nice.
Oh, hell yeah.
Right.
Yeah, get those. So just download that I don't want this preview here. Can I do this? Okay, so ignore that preview, but just download the HTML bookmark and then that freelancer toolkit. Kind of thumb through it. It covers all kinds of stuff. So it covers content writing and creative capture, email marketing and funnels, some graphic design tools, some audio video tools, web hosting platforms and design, some automation, SEO keyword and research, autodidact methods. So if you're the type that likes to teach themselves, where do you go? Different internet browsers and virtual private networks to use if is so relevant. So
Nice.
go ahead and thumb through those. And if you have any questions, feel free to DM me. I'll see that you're a part of Triba, and I'm not gonna block you from my DMs. So, but other than that, I appreciate you guys coming in and asking questions and being involved. And I hope that this has shed some light on SEO.
Yeah, this has been awesome. And for anybody watching afterwards, you can find Vic in Triba. So if you're not in Triba yet, make sure you go check it out, discord.gg/Triba. And he's a Triba elder, so he's at the top right corner. You'll be able to find him and message him, get more information on SEO, get some help with that stuff. I'll also put his link in co-working chat here as we wrap up. But I just appreciate all you guys coming out today for the live stream. Clara, Danny, Jay, John, Michelangelo. Appreciate you guys. A few other people hopped in and out, but this has been great. And we do workshops like this about every week. So we'll have a break here for Thanksgiving, and then we'll be back at it in December. So look forward to seeing you guys at some more of those events. And Vic, thanks again for coming in and sharing this with us. Some great information.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks.
All right, guys, that's it for today. We'll wrap up the stream and we'll see you next time.